Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 300 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Franz-Grote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate U Inc.
Today's topic is unlock bigger opportunities and lasting alliances. So, a question for the audience: how can you stop wasting time on shallow networking and start building real connections that actually drive business growth? That's what our guest is all about. Chris Cianciulli from My Personal Network is our guest today. He is a podcaster, a networker, a fitness trainer, exercise coach, and proud dad, all while leading the charge at My Personal Network. With a passion for building strong connections, both in business and in life, Chris helps professionals and businesses streamline their networking with a cutting-edge app designed to automate and enhance interactions. His expertise extends beyond the digital space, drawing from his background in fitness coaching to bring discipline, strategy, and energy to everything he does. Whether it's growing your professional network, optimizing relationships, or finding balance between work and life, Chris and My Personal Network provide the tools to take your networking to the next level. Chris, welcome, sir. And do you have a favorite quote or saying?
Favorite quote: the only time you should ever look back is to see how far you've come.
That works. That almost reminds me of an old movie called The Cannonball Run. And the guy that's driving one of the convertibles from Italy, he goes, "The rearview mirror, you never need it." He snaps it off. You're always looking forward. Yep. So true. So what's changed in networking in the last 20 years? Because obviously you developed a new platform. And what are the errors people make when they're going to do their networking? What are the assumptions they make that are going down the wrong alley?
I think the change has been a progression over the last 45 years with technology. Really, post-COVID, everything's changed from how it had been previously. Everything was very much limited to the region or part of the world that you lived or country that you lived, where your contacts or your Rolodex was people in close proximity. One of the greatest changes has been we can be in two different countries right now communicating in real time, and that's something that didn't exist at that point. So first thing I would say is the technology.
What inspired the My Personal Network and the app?
One of the things I learned as we went into this digital space and people were networking on Zoom over in person, coming from the fitness world, I saw that the people who talked about how much they work out or would want to talk about their own diet the most were the ones that were very showy about wanting to prove that they were doing more than the person next to them. And I saw that there was a way where people would brag based on their routine, their program, their time, the weight they lifted. It was very much where people competed, proving almost like a hierarchy. And what I loved about training so much was working with people, not just for the fitness aspect or seeing their changes, but I enjoyed the relationships that I built with clients. I'm godfather to two kids of parents that I introduced who were clients of mine. I loved bringing people together. When I would hear about someone, I'd say, "Oh, you should meet." And I could always open the conversation with, "Oh, you had this in common." So it became a warm introduction. And after COVID, I realized the opportunity to create almost a fitness model minus the exercise. So it was taking what I was doing with clients, getting them to engage and interact. My sessions with clients were asking a lot of questions. Many of my clients had businesses or they were business owners. So we would talk about their systems, processes, and how they achieved success. I had clients with billion-dollar companies, and to hear them share the steps to get to that point was so interesting for me, interested in having a more successful business. I realized that everyone has experiences to share. If more networking was less transactional and more about building authentic connections, So it was first identifying what I thought was missing from the networking space. I found that many people who do a lot of networking wear as a badge of honor how much networking they do. Someone will say to you, "Oh, I do so many one-to-ones. I'll meet with anyone. I do a ton of these." That's like on a date, the person on a date would say, "Oh my God, I go on so many dates. I love meeting lots of people. I don't like to get to know any one person more than once. I just like to do a lot of first dates." And that was surprising to me how many people would try to prove to you how accomplished they were at networking versus the idea of it leading to finding out more about what led them into the business or telling their story. It was creating a way with the app and a platform that would systematize the way we communicate, because the big disparity in networking organizations is you have extroverts and introverts. The extroverts dominate, but the introverts generate more revenue by passing business. The introverts are more likely to leave because if they're not communicating effectively, then they aren't going to feel like there's an opportunity for business. Yet the extroverts will say they don't want to talk about business. They want to get to know the individual. But if the individual doesn't know how to communicate, there's going to be this causing churn in the organization. My vision was to create a way where one-to-ones could become more effective. The meeting style identifies who you want to know better, and then the one-to-one has a system in the app for checking off tags to see what the person has in common with you, alerting them and building a stronger, deeper connection.
I know you're not doing a dating website or a dating app. However, you are merging people to find you a good pairing, but on a business level. That's pretty outstanding.
We have something in the app when you get onto a call called an icebreaker, and it's a this or that question. When you introduce yourself, you explain why you chose this and not that. And you'll always share a little blurb of what brought you to that answer. By sharing little pieces about yourself, that's going to resonate with someone who has it in common. One of the questions we've asked, and I've asked this question, I've 700 plus answers: quality or quantity. And I'll use that for new people coming in. And every single person, I think 98% of people answer that question, say quality over quantity. And then they'll ask me a question: how many members belong? How many people will I meet? And I'll say, wait, were you quality or quantity? And they'll say, what do you mean? And I said, are you interested in a quality connection or just meeting a lot of people? In traditional networking, you may ask to see a roster of its members, and your decision is predicated on who belongs to the group. Going back to the dating analogy, if I were dating, I'm not because my wife doesn't allow me to, but if I were, and I were to be on a dating site and I said, let me see 50 blonde hair, blue eyed females who I'm interested in dating, just because I look at their profile and I'm interested doesn't mean they're interested. And taking that same philosophy and applying it to networking, just because a group has a certain number of people who are in that profession doesn't mean they want to meet you. So if you join a group based on the potential because of the professions in it, you're joining hoping for an outcome. So at MPN or my personal network, we put the person ahead of the profession. So you get to know the individual before you're ever even talking about business. In our meetups, which are small group get-togethers for 30 to 40 minutes, we don't even say what we do until the very end when we sign off. The idea is you are attracted to the personality or what someone shares to have the interest to want to know more. And that's when you learn what they do. We just share as a matter of fact. So you're more likely to remember them when the opportunity arises.
You've got this wonderful hybrid where you have automation and artificial intelligence and the human touch. And I would have thought that those two people would be arguing one side or another, but you seem to have combined them.
So there's no AI whatsoever. And the way that our platform works is it's based on levels of engagement. What I realized with networking is everyone is very focused on who they want to meet. It's one-sided. So often people will want to go to a meet. You'll hear people say, "Oh, it didn't cost anything, so let's see what I can get from it." Or hopefully I'll get something from it. So people go in with an idea of what can they take. And we can say lots of cliche things like know and trust, and you need to get to know someone first. People refer for one reason and one reason only, and that is that they value the person they are referring. It's not like trust, it's value. Because if you value someone, you belong to one of the traditional networking groups where you have a certain number of referrals that you have to pass, otherwise you're out. The reason you are motivated to pass that referral is you value being a member of that organization and you don't want to be kicked out. So even if it's not a real referral or it's a BS lead, you will pass that because you don't want to be kicked out of the group. So you're doing what's expected of you. But that same value can be based on the relationship you have with someone. The fear isn't being kicked out. You want to refer someone because you value them as, dare I say, a friend. If you value the individual and you know their situation, and you know that they have 2 kids in college and know someone who needs their service, you're more likely to refer them. Through our app, you connect the person by just entering their first name, last name, email, and the emails are already crafted. So you can not only send an email to introduce 2 people, but you have a record of the introduction being made so that you can follow up to see how did it go? Were you guys able to connect? So no AI, everything is done through the input that an individual uses. When someone meets with someone else, they click tags about what they had in common with the other person. And then what we do at MPN is when we arrange groups and we put 5-person groups together, we're using the feedback from the members to arrange those personalities. We're able to bring people together based on similar likes, interests, personality types, areas of interest. So our introductions are intentional and not just because they work in a certain industry.
Would it be fair to say that if you're the introvert, you take away the stress of being the introvert and they can just be themselves? Would that be a fair description? And if you're an extrovert where you're going, I've got so much to share and I'm making you're a 200-watt bulb in a 60-watt lamp, right? It just balances everything up, it makes it like on a level playing field? Would that be the best way to describe it?
That's a fantastic way to describe it. When I embarked on this, I didn't have the kind of understanding that I do now, which initially I thought it was about creating an experience that is fun, that would make it where you're having a good time engaging with others. I was thinking bigger settings because that used to be the selling point. If you said, oh, this meeting has 80 people on, you thought there was more opportunity because there's more people. But going back to my exercise analogy, if you take a gym and you say you should join this gym, there's 500 pieces of equipment. If you're not that familiar with exercise, that's more intimidating than motivating to want to join. So for someone that doesn't know what to talk about or is shy or introverted, more people doesn't appeal to them. That makes them more nervous and guarded. When I started listening to the introverts and hearing their experience, they would say, I'm constantly pitched by people that I'm not interested in their product, and they talk the whole time. I shared very little. I didn't ask any questions about me. When I started hearing the issue that they were having, that's when I said, I'm focusing on the wrong area. So that's when it was changing it to how do you level the playing field so everyone can equally share about themselves.
So at the end of the day, are there any metrics that you get a lot of engagement, probably tracking that people made conversation with each other? Do you have any stories where someone has gone, listen, this has gone so well that either they've made a certain level of transaction or they've formed some deeper bond, whether it's a joint venture or they're collaborating on a one-off project? Do you have any backstories like that that have germinated?
One of them, just one recently. What's different about this platform and the culture that we've created is everyone looks at opportunities in terms of abundance, not scarcity. In traditional networking, if someone does what someone else does, they cry foul and say, that's a conflict of interest. That's my category. They're not allowed to talk about that, as if every other member in the group doesn't know 5 other people that do what everyone else does. So that's something that doesn't hold up the way that it used to with industry exclusivity. It's a false narrative that doesn't exist. Just this morning, we had 2 coaches on a call out of 6 people that were grouped together. At the end, you identify one person that you want to follow up with, and then you tell us the reason. One of the coaches said, I would like to meet with so-and-so. We're both in the same industry or area, but their approach is totally opposite to mine. I'm interested in learning more about it. That to me was so refreshing to hear people that aren't threatened by one another, who has a different philosophy, but are interested in bettering themselves through dialogue. So that's one person who's in the mortgage space couldn't write a mortgage in the state that someone needed one for the referral. So they reached out to someone else in MPN and they worked together to complete that client's mortgage. I say we're about collaboration over competition. It's finding ways how we can work together for a bigger opportunity than work alone for a smaller one.
When I heard your selling proposition, I thought you were a competitor of my networking company. But no, you actually work with networks. Tell me how that works.
The expression or the slogan I say is, we bridge networks. Many of our members belong to the BNIs, the LATIPs. You name the organization, we have members. Just in LATIP alone, we've referred probably 7 or 8 people who have joined LATIP chapters through this. I practice what I preach, to use that expression, even though there's no preaching going on. But it's the idea that I've learned through the culture and I've become so much more open to the idea of not being threatened. If a traditional type networking group, industry exclusivity is working for you, that's awesome. I'm glad. If you have an hour and a half to dedicate to a weekly meeting, that's fantastic. But I know from people I've spoken to who belong to multiple chapters of different organizations that numbers are going down, chapters are smaller, more groups are opting to go fully virtual instead of a hybrid or in person. So I think depending on the industry and the size of the group, and frankly, the age of the individual, I think that some people who like to read the newspaper, read a physical book because they like to feel the book, you can say that all you want, but a physical book is not more efficient than having it digital. When it comes down to, if you truly are using networking to build relationships, you can't compete with technology because it allows you to do things that you can't do in the regular world.
When you're having these sessions and you're having a roundtable, do you have other circumstances where you have someone coming in to present and then roundtable, or is it just roundtable?
Never presenting. In all the groups I've belonged to, if you're trying to sell to the people in the room with you, you're not networking, you're not relationship building, you're pitching. Those aren't members of a group. Those are leads in your eyes. If you're trying to sell, so what we say at MPN is tell, don't sell. Tell us about you. Don't sell us what you do. There's no reason for presentation because no one wants to hear about your business. They just want to hear that if they have an issue, you can solve it. They don't want to go into the features. They just want the benefits. Presentations, in my opinion, are worthless. I would rather hear experiences that you've had in situations. Just because a presentation is given doesn't mean everyone's even paying attention to it. That to me is where someone who's extroverted is going to have a much better experience than someone introverted. I would rather help the introverts deliver their message. Our format is always you are sharing about you. We put individuals into 5-person groups. In that 5-person group, it's called a meetup. A meetup only has those 5 people, at most 6. Each person answers 3 icebreakers, which are this or that. They select a question from the drop down, and that makes up 3 rounds in our meetup. Round 1 is everyone introduces themselves, where they're zooming in from, and then their answers to the icebreakers. Round 2 involves each attendee asking their question, calling on others in order, and then sharing their answer last. Round reminding everyone who you are, where you are, who stood out to you, and what resonated and piqued your interest. Then tell us the service you offer in a sentence, not as a pitch. Whoever you select in the app, you click their picture and schedule one-to-one. That sends a request so they can schedule with you at that moment.
So you have all the pieces where in the moment, the tools are there to do that deeper connection. Somebody feels, hey, connect with this person. There seems to be a lot of common ground, which is pretty outstanding. What's the science behind this? Is it something you just built, tested, or is there a science that comes from a certain source?
The science has really been surveys with members when they're coming in, asking people right off the bat when meeting people, what do you belong to? How do you define networking? I have 3 models that I present to guests when they come to MPN, and it defines the 3 ways we define networking. Someone's either doing it on their own where they don't belong to something and they attend multiple events, but they don't want to commit. Then you have those that are in referral type groups where they meet regularly, where they're expected to refer to one another, but they pay a membership to belong, or mastermind groups where they're there to work on themselves, build relationships, and referrals aren't the key purpose for being there. They do take place, but it's not the priority. So by having those 3 and asking people, what have you had experience with? What did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? It was taking the feedback from people of what they would change, what they like, what they don't. And that's when it became creating the 3 model approach. MPN has 4 steps that are completed each week. The first step is you attend that meetup where you engage in a small group. The second step is initiating a follow-up in the app for who you'd like to have a one-to-one with to learn more. The third step is having your one-to-one with that person. And the fourth step is using the app to recap, which is clicking tags about what they said and then selecting 3 adjectives to describe how they came across to you. And then you select a follow-up date. Because what was surprising to me in the surveys is how few, it was under 5% of people said that they ever have a second one-to-one. If you just take that and look at how much time have you wasted of your life that you'll never get back meeting with people who you're never going to talk to again. It's like being on an airplane, sitting next to someone for 2 hours, having a conversation, and then never talk to them again. That's what most people do when they network. And they're busy, but they're not productive. So what I want to do is help people be more productive with their time, something in common with you, or you can relate to what they've shared. you express interest to follow up, you have your one-to-one. And by recording that information, not only does it allow the other person to know what you know about them, but you also give a rating to the conversation based on 5 stars, and only the user can see their overall rating. It's like Uber, how instead of just the passenger rating the driver can rate the passenger. The passenger feels like they're in a position of authority, if you will, where they can complain about the car was dirty, there was this, there was music. I love how they level the playing field, how the driver can say they were a lousy passenger, they this, they that. So I want to take that same philosophy and make it where instead of someone just telling you how great they are and how connected, how they know everyone, here in the app, you can see exactly how engaged someone is, because each time they complete those 4 actions, it changes their border color. You see who's highly engaged and more likely to remember you. You can't refer people you don't remember. So the whole idea is if I can make you more memorable, members are more likely to refer you because they remember you. The common fallacy is it's not what you know, it's who you know. Totally wrong. It's not what you know. It's not who you know. It's who you know that knows what you know. Because if they don't know what you know, they can't tell others about you. So that's what NPN is. It's recording what stood out and how you came across so anyone in sales can see. And that was eye-opening to me. For me to only be just under 4 stars when I started using this, I realized I was pitching NPN too much and not having an authentic conversation. I started saying something a couple of years ago. It's surprising how someone with bad breath can't smell their own breath when their nose is just above their mouth. Often we criticize behaviors that we don't even know we do. And I realized through my own platform that I wasn't coming across the way in my mind I was. And that forced me to change my behaviors to bring it up to just under 5 stars. I even coded it where I can't look to see who's given ratings. So I don't know who gave me negative ratings. And that's how I wanted it to be, where it has total anonymity, where you don't know who's raking. Even when you complete a one-to-one, it doesn't give the feedback right away. There's a lag time on it until you've done a certain number of one-to-ones so that it skews it so you don't know who gave you what rating. I wanted to protect people's privacy like that. So you can give feedback that's constructive to help people raise awareness about how they come across others. Because when people join networking groups and don't get business, they never believe that maybe it's them. They think that it's like a gym. I joined that gym, I didn't lose weight. It's not the gym's fault. The gym provides a structure to go to. What you do in it is up to you. People who follow a system or program have a better result than someone who just joins a gym and tries to figure it out on their own. So it's taking that same model. It's a meal prep service where you just heat and eat versus I'm going to teach you about nutrition. I'm going to teach you how to cook your foods. That's all well and good. But at the end of the day, people want the result. They don't want additional work. They already have a job. Networking is not their job.
Chris, you are a fitness coach.
Yep.
You tried to fix your own problem because of what you saw in your own business. Tell us that story.
I was an exercise physiologist, got into grad school in the same area. At that time, I was doing strength testing for the New York Islanders because my school's graduate program worked with this hockey organization because we were 10 minutes away from where they played. And I wanted to get into the working with athletes because, like everyone that thinks it's going to be so great, I wanted to work with those elite individuals because their strength is just out of this world. It's so impressive. I started working with a lot of different professional athletes in different sports. And then I started working with people in the music industry, really with a lot of producers and people in athletics and music. And I was traveling with different artists, going different states each week. I was flying somewhere else. And I didn't like that as much as I enjoyed working with regular people. The greatest compliment I got from clients wasn't because of the weight they lost or the strength they attained. When people told me, I've never been able to be consistent with exercise and I haven't missed a week working out with you in 2 years, like knowing that I could keep someone's attention and keep them motivated. At the end of the day, my clients weren't having this huge weight loss change or this huge strength gain. They were healthy. They felt good. They were able to talk at the end of the day and get things off their chest. They were able to talk about themselves with someone who wanted to listen and hear them. And I saw the value in that right away. What appealed to me about exercise was the communication that took place under the guise of exercise.
You also are into podcasting. Has your podcasting blended in with this process, or is that a separate line?
I actually stopped podcasting. I've been on the cusp of multiple things very early on. In 2004, 5, and 6, when I was traveling with different artists, my web designer showed me my new website. There was a little microphone image and it's an apple over it. And I was like, what's that? And he said, this is a new thing called podcasting. And I was like, what is it? And he said, well, it's like radio, but it's through the computer. I'm like, where's the video player? No video. It's audio. I go, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. This thing, there's no way this thing is going to last. I said the same thing about the internet in 1999. So my track record is great at predicting this. He started a podcast back in 2004, and he would have me on regularly to talk. His podcast was about travel, and he would have me on to do segments for how you can exercise in hotel rooms or when on vacation. I did 8 episodes with him. I started doing it during the pandemic, and found it to be very challenging, and I tip my hat to anyone who's done more than 10 episodes of a podcast, because it's very hard to be consistent with it, to not just get guests, but to even maintain your own interest in it. I found it to be very challenging to have a podcast. I love being a guest on whoever will have me, but it's harder than it looks. So again, I tip my hat to you guys.
Oh, thank you. Are there top key points you want to relate to somebody, other than become part of MPN? But are there top points you want to relate to somebody when they're networking? So it's not a quantity, but more a quality focus.
It's hard to answer that without coming across like I'm negative and criticizing the whole industry. I don't think the current form of networking is effective for the outcome that people are expecting when they set out on it. If you join a group to get business, again, it's if you go to college, you're going to college because you want the degree. But you don't at every class say to the professor, I haven't gotten the degree yet. Or if you start investing, you're not calling your broker to say, why isn't there over $1 million in my account? It's been 2 months.
I got to remember that line. What'll happen next?
But we can laugh at that as we say, yet people will join a networking group and they think, and unfortunately, comparing it again to exercise, when someone has a bad weekend with their eating, they'll make a statement like, oh, I was so bad. On Monday, I'm going to run 10 miles. I'm going to work out for 5 hours. First off, no, you're not. And secondly, it's not going to do anything more because you do extra. That people complain when they're busy and complain when they're slow because they'll get onto a call and say, oh, I'm so busy. Isn't that what your goal was? So I think people inherently want to complain. And that's why I don't like a model, or the best way to say this would be the NPN model isn't about you telling about your accomplishments in a braggadocious way. You're answering questions to share your experience with situations that, if you read between the lines, you can hear what someone's saying. But it's getting to know the individual who had the accomplishment, not just hearing the accomplishment. In networking, people will make themselves unrelatable without intending to. If I stand in front of a room and say, I'm a financial advisor, I work with high net worth individuals, yada, yada, I'm so great, you're going to intimidate people to even want to make a referral or introduction, because they're going to question, is my person high net worth enough? So you almost increase the doubt, because I thought everyone in the space was like me. And I may have even looked slightly down on others, thinking, I know what my worth is, I know my value. And I'm saying that because I realize that if everyone is doing that, you have lots of people talking and no one really listening. Unfortunately, the only people that are listening are the more introverted people, but they're not having a good experience listening. It's only motivating them to want to quit the group that they belong to. That's why with NPN, it was creating a format where it's asking questions. The best way to get to know someone is to ask them questions. So by giving introverts questions to choose instead of questions, and our questions are asked in a certain way, following like a bank code or DISC with personality testing. So we phrase the questions where it's always, what's one way? What's one accomplishment? Who's one person? So it's sharing something concise to reveal something about you.
No, actually, it refines and defines.
So how big a geography does NPN work in? And how do we get a hold of you if they want to learn more?
Most of our members are across the United States and Canada. Actually, everyone. It's United States and Canada. West Coast, East Coast, Canada. So looking for more of the middle of the country. I like to say what's very unique about NPN is we build your network. We don't grow your network. And the difference is like this. You look at a garden where you're growing flowers and you spend a lot of time, effort, and energy to have a beautiful garden with beautiful flowers. It doesn't take long for a weed to get in and destroy the beauty of what you create with the flowers. Weeds grow faster and they can destroy what you work so hard on. When you build something, you can be more strategic. If something isn't working, you can make adjustments. When it comes to one's network, if you grow it, that's what changes the culture in organizations. Individuals can change that for good or bad. Audiences come and go. Communities come and go. You get tired of a community. We're building a network, and in network are trusted contacts or relationships, professional relationships that are authentic. And you can learn more at mypersonalnetwork.org, where you can register to attend one of our meetups, check it out firsthand. I really think that we're going to redefine networking and disrupt the space, because instead of joining someone else's network, you can build your own. Why fill a seat that once you leave, someone else is going to take up? You can build a network that you're the center of. And that's what you do at NPN. You are the center of your network.
Excellent. If someone wants to embed NPN into their space, you have the platform for it. They can germinate from being in one of your sessions and then create their own sessions.
Yeah, there's a format how we go about doing it, but there's a very aggressive growth strategy that we're starting to implement. I believe a lot of people will become interested in being part of it because of the opportunity behind it. We will be creating a whole new industry the same way how when I got into personal training in the mid 90s, personal training wasn't as popular as it is now. I remember being laughed at by people that said, "So you're going to help people exercise?" And they didn't understand the model of what personal training was. And me going to college for it, I said, "No." They didn't get it. I believe that the model we've developed out of MPN is going to create a whole separate industry of people to where they can be professional networkers, where networking can become something where they can earn a living. We have a system and process for individuals to follow to build their own network and be compensated for it. If you're doing it anyway, why not get paid for it?
I want to say thank you to Chris, my co-host Wayne, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If you want to network for the quality of the contact and connections, reach out to Chris at MPN. Chris, what's your website?
mypersonalnetwork.org.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people. Carl Richards, from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert. Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host. Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space. Then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner, and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.